Joy Behar calls her a 10. I mean, how dare she objectify a woman with a sexist rating system, but it's such a typical thing from a 1.5.
Well said.
The motives stink worse than Joy Behar's jog bra. I mean, assuming she jogs. Oh, wait, there she is. She has a point. Maybe I am obsessed, but some people are obsessed with Bigfoot, and they don't get to see him on TV every afternoon. And if they did, could they tell the two apart? I don't know.
Happiness Tyrus and Greg Gutfeld just steamroll Behar. And you won't believe how Gutfeld transformed Joy's smug smirk into a full-on existential crisis in this uncensored and unintentionally funny live performance. Tyrus simply sat back and dropped one-liners like nukes while watching her implode. Buckle up, because what you're about to witness makes roast battles seem like therapy sessions. Let's start the slaughter.
It's not even that. In The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. Mm-hmm. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sonny, and was it Bette Midler? What's her name?
Joy.
Broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back. She was a Republican, but every show and every break, she was nearly in tears because she was being attacked.
Happiness for so long. Behar has sat comfortably atop the tumbling throne of daytime TV that it's almost surprising no one bothered to laugh her out of the kingdom earlier. However, Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus arrived with a platform and far more devastating sarcasm, timing than pitchforks and torches. And suddenly the illusion of Joy's untouchable reign started to fall apart more quickly than her attempts to connect with customers who shop at a store without valet parking.
Behar accused Elon Musk of being pro-apartheid, but then begged him afterwards not to sue. Musk lawyers have yet to comment because they're still checking to see if it's legal to sue a cow.
Shots fired.
Just a legal question. I don't know why it's so upsetting. I don't make the rules in this country.
Don't make a mistake now. This wasn't a debate. Rather, it was a televised surgical takedown that was carried out without the Queen herself ever being invited, which made it all the more vicious. There was no big confrontation, no in-person showdown, no smoke-filled stage where Joy could shout over someone.
Some news, the feral monsters of The View say they've never heard of you-know-who. True, the show that makes mornings hell claim that my name doesn't ring a bell. It's time for
Our View on The View. Ugh.
Yeah, the witch's coven finally shows me some lovin'. Yesterday on The View, yours truly was the subject of conversation. Apparently the broads have no idea who I am, or so they say. Hit it, Glass.
Gutfeld, whose entire career seems to be centered around dispelling media absurdities with the vigor of a coffee-fueled stand-up comedian, didn't need to mention names. Instead, he merely described the typical sanctimonious daytime hosts who yell into an echo chamber while sipping Chardonnay and acting as though they are aware of gas prices. The earth isn't round if that doesn't describe Joy Behar in her natural environment.
That Gutfeld talks about you all the time.
Who is he? Really, who is he?
I don't watch the show.
He has a show.
I don't watch the
never
show.
heard of him.
Yeah.
I guess he's just obsessed with me.
No. Next, Joy's going to say she's never heard of carbs. Seriously, her denial of knowing me is as believable as her red hair. But obsession? I mean, come on, Joy. Where would you even get that idea? Like Joy Behar's face, it's looking worse and worse by the day. More full of crap than Joy Behar after a night of scotch and Taco Bell. Her being named Joy is like me being named Ugly. Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. It now smells like a humid day inside Joy Behar's...
Tyrus, meanwhile, continued to perform for a live audience that applauds like Pavlov's dogs while playing his typical role of the quiet executor. No yelling, no overacting, just cold, uncut mockery. Tyrus looks directly into the camera and asks, "Are we really still taking this woman seriously?" The audience knows exactly who he's referring to without him ever speaking. This wasn't an impromptu swoop. Rather, it was a planned segment that was constructed like a comedy hit job. Let's take a moment to reflect on how we got here. Joy Behar, the symbol of self-satisfaction on a show that once claimed relevance, was suddenly the subject of a joke that she wasn't invited to hear, despite being the only character in the sketch. Behar's career is a history of misguided indignation, historical lapses and viewpoints that are so disconnected from reality that they give the impression that science fiction is a documentary she floats in her own bubble, clings to applause like it's life support, and is like that one person at a party who insists on giving a TED talk about current events while mispronouncing half the country she speaks in absolutes.
No, this is what elitists do who can't, like, if you don't know who someone is, how did you know to automatically hate him? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, that's how fake and full of she is. Gutfeld, never heard of him. Don't like him. Why? Because why? That's why I just turned to one of my kids. Because why?
Yeah.
Because I don't know who he is. Never heard of him at all in my entire life. But why? Because I don't know. Because they are the last TV show to talk about high turnover. Mm-hmm. We've been rolling 3 steady for a long time.
Yeah.
We don't take breaks in the commercial to get away from each other. Well, that's what the drinking's for.
Yes.
Megan McCain, how'd that go?
Yeah.
Rosie O'Donnell, or any of these previous fellow employees? Because one of the things they said was that no one walks away from money. Right?
Yeah.
So they got people running away from it.
And that's where Gutfeld's genius enters the picture. Rather than arguing back with counter-rants or fire and brimstone, he simply laughed and dismantled the ideological scaffolding Joy has been standing on for decades with jokes, smirks, and the occasional raised eyebrow. It wasn't war. It was comedy as wrecking ball. And the ridiculous thing is that Joy still believes she's winning. She's the band leader on a ship that hit the iceberg 2 hours ago, and everyone is on lifeboats, and she's still conducting the orchestra with gusto, oblivious to the fact that the water is knee-deep. Gutfeld and Tyrus didn't need to question her reality. They did that for them. They simply turned on the camera and pointed the view. Joy's show has developed into a kind of performance art for the politically ill. What began as a talk show now appears to be a dramatic reenactment of a group chat that no one asked to join. It's like watching a Broadway play where the script has been replaced with Twitter tirades, and each host vies for the most dramatic eye roll. Gutfeld, who is watching this soap opera from a rooftop while drinking coffee, questions how it's still airing, then throws a grenade in the form of a segment that completely destroys the entire premise of moral superiority the viewpoint pretends to hold. It's not even that he attacks Behar. Rather, he attacks the very idea of her.
The problem is that you have to go after the racist people. And if the CEO goes, you know what, I'm not going to allow a woman on my show or man that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racists on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's a lot of people at home, white people at home during the day that are not watching your show anymore. So just clean it up.
Yeah, you know.
Theatrics are unnecessary for Tyrus, ever the minimalist. While Behar requires a full orchestra to make a point, his entire shtick is based on body language irony and the type of deadpan delivery that makes you laugh before he even speaks. Tyrus only requires a half sentence and an arched eyebrow. The message since Joy Behar's 3 scandals ago. There's been a certain amusing quality to someone who acts like a political caricature and demands to be taken seriously. Behar is the epitome of claptor, ranting with the assurance of a Nobel laureate, the facts of a trivia dropout, and the subtlety of a foghorn. The applause she receives is not genuine wit, but rather ideological agreement. The kind of noise that indicates the audience isn't laughing because it's funny, but rather clapping because they've been trained to do so. Tyrus and Gutfeld are in the realm of genuine laughter, the kind that occurs when someone points out the ridiculousness that was right in front of you. Behar requires a sympathetic audience and a teleprompter. Gutfeld requires a punchline and a single camera. This contrast is what makes this roast so deadly. For so long, she took the applause as confirmation, But Gutfeld broke through that bubble without ever entering. He laughed at the castle as she waved from the balcony, thinking she was being applauded.
The View. It's become like a medical hospital that displays human misfailure. Like it's like here, let's look at this political oddity. It's like it really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and two-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that. But The View is a victim of the sunk cost fallacy. How can you now speak the truth when for years you've been telling lie after lie after lie? Now you're carrying this big bag of rocks around you because it's too harmful for their ego to admit that we really were dishonest. And they could be honest. All they would have to say is, look, we hate Trump so much. We were willing to lie about Joe Biden because we felt he was preferable. We thought our lying and our cover-up was on your behalf. Just say that. You're still scum, but at least you're honest scum.
And Tyrus simply gave her the, "Are you hearing yourself right now?" expression, and left the rhetorical ashes to smolder. He doesn't make an argument. Instead, he watches, and the loudest mockery can be heard in that silence. Joy Behar, the queen of performative outrage, just lacks the means to fight satire with sincerity and counter-irony with indignation. She swings with emotion while Gutfeld ducks with comedy and responds with logic wrapped in absurdity. Joy Behar isn't incapable of changing. Rather, she is dedicated to the performance. She could abandon the charade tomorrow, but she won't, since it is too intoxicating to be correct on TV, even when you're wrong. And that is precisely what Tyrus and Gutfeld reveal in a future episode. Not the person, but the persona, casually laying out a monologue full of one-liners. Gutfeld destroys the false moral compass they were like a trophy and sets fire to the daytime TV echo chamber.
Sure, all that, and the price of butter. Sonny gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, asking that question, it might have been a closer election. But when oh no, nothing really comes to mind, I was like, cha-ching. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be. This should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last. They called him Hitler. They call these things. America rejected them, and instead of coming back and saying we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see.
It's hilarious when someone criticizes the emperor's fashion choices without even bringing up the emperor, who is obviously nude. Tyrus delivers the last blow by remaining motionless as the camera pans to him. Just a look that says, "I can't believe this is the discourse now," without any jokes or commentary. Whatever self-awareness remained on Behar's teleprompter was likely melted by that expression alone. And let's face it, it's about time someone made fun of The View without ever setting foot on its stage. The show has evolved from a topical discussion to a recurrent parody on how to butcher nuance with flair. While Joy attempts to moralize every subject as though she were making closing arguments at the Supreme Court, Gutfeld and Tyrus don't need to be there because they are already putting on a much more entertaining version without cards or pre-planned applause. Because no one wants to be told how to think by someone who views dissent as a disease, Gutfeld treats it like a cocktail party where someone brought up politics excessively. The audience isn't buying the sermon anymore. They're turning the channel to laughter. And the loudest punchlines are coming from two guys who don't need a panel to be devastating. Gutfeld and Tyrus didn't just make fun of Joy. They made fun of the format that keeps her employed. They did this without mentioning her name. Joy may still think she's the voice of reason, but the joke is literally on her. The precision with which they roasted an idea so thoroughly that Joy Behar herself became a walking parody of everything they were mocking, not by argument, but by contrast, is what makes this takedown legendary.
Running her mouth. She should. But she should. It's the only running she does. Emily! So what did you make of this? VVAC is what she called him. I don't care if you disagree or agree with him. That dude is not dumb.
No, and that is what was so ridiculous. Everything that comes out of her mouth is ridiculous. But for her to make that kind of point about someone that we all know, that regardless how you feel about his politics or him running, that he is undeniably brilliant, is so ridiculous.
Joy Behar sat atop her squeaky swivel chair, waiting for the battle horns to sound and someone to challenge her throne, while Gutfeld and Tyrus were busy roasting her legacy like a forgotten pot roast left in a daytime TV crockpot without an invitation, RSVP, or red carpet. This is because, while The View pushes sanctimony wrapped in applause, Gutfeld and Tyrus deliver comedy with teeth, and it's becoming very clear which one audiences are hungry for. They just laughed around her, not at her, and accomplished the unimaginable complete annihilation by omission because, let's face it, this wasn't a duel. Rather, it was a demolition job. From across the street, Gutfeld lit a fuse in his own studio, sipped his coffee, and watched from a distance as the entire foundation of Joy's arrogant little empire began to wobble. Tyrus didn't even break a sweat, just a deadpan glare and a well-timed snort that somehow carried more weight than a 10-minute monologue about the state of democracy. Joy didn't realize she wasn't the main character anymore.
Here's Joy Behar talking about refusing to share a kidney.
I find my friends with a Trump supporter. I won't give them a kidney, but I could be friends with them.
Hey, Joy, it's a kidney, not a pizza. Of course, she's kidding at first, but then she goes on to explain the moral foundation for her resentment, and it's the same one that drives all deadly ideology.
That's what hurts. The bear is tired, the costumes have faded, and the circus has left town years ago. She expected a conflict rebuttal, possibly even a dramatic panel split-screen showdown, but instead she got a roast without a guest of honor. Imagine creating a whole persona on getting a reaction, and no one bothers to poke the bear anymore. It's not even fun. The cultural currency has changed, and guess what? Moral grandstanding is no longer legal tender. What used to be a midday coliseum for ideological combat now feels more like a wax museum where the animatronics glitch mid-sentence. It used to be the place for hot takes, but now it's just warm leftovers reheated by hosts still pretending their outrage is edgy.
Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
What's worse is that the audience didn't miss her at all because we've entered an era where audiences are trading in the overproduced, overactive melodrama of moral lecture halls disguised as talk shows. In contrast, Gutfeld's chaotic show has the feel of a sloppy dive bar where the bartender knows how to serve the truth with a dash of sarcasm and the jokes at least land. Sausage maker more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage are being recalled by Johnsonville due to a potential plastic fiber contamination. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all.